couple of questions from me now on accessibility. So it's specifically about accessible homes and wheelchair accessible homes, and is the 11.7 billion allocated to the new affordable homes programme sufficient to meet our accessible and wheelchair housing needs? You know that we had an investigation on this in June and heard the extent of the impact of the lack of affordable accessible homes for our disabled Londoners. So yeah, will you be able to provide sufficient homes with that 11.7 billion?
So, I mean, I have to say, I think this really does go into planning, and I think that planning is the area where accessible housing is best secured. And as you know, we've got requirements in the London Plan. I think it's difficult for us to put requirements within the Affordable Homes Programme grant funding requirements. I think, as I say, this is something that is probably best, secured and delivered at the planning stage.
I guess I agree that there's planning requirements, and actually we've had planning requirements to have 10% wheelchair accessible and 90% accessible, and they haven't been delivered. So obviously there is more we need to do than just have that planning requirement. But I guess the bits that we've been talking about here is the grant allocation, which we heard was a barrier to people being able to provide that accessible home. And actually what happens is the councils have to then apply for DFG to then kind of retrofit, and obviously that takes time, it's process, it's that additional money at that phase, at that stage. And then also, as you were just saying, you're going to get those bids through. So will there be scrutiny of the accessible homes being provided in those bids?
So I don't think that this is something that we record, is it? Or have I got that wrong? I'm looking at Tajmina.
Well, yeah, we don't include all of the detail on the bids that we get on the projects that we have.
I mean, obviously, yeah, go for it, Tim.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think what we will be doing as we go through the bids that partners put together, it's quite like family housing in many ways. We want to support our partners to be able to deliver the programmes that they would like to and they need to deliver. In terms of accessible housing, they need to meet the planning requirements, and they also may have additional requirements beyond that which they want to meet for their residents, and we would like them to put forward programmes that reflect that, including showing how the costs of that need to be accommodated. And our assumption in looking at those bids is that they will be meeting planning requirements, and that those costs are built into the costs which we accept for applicability for grants. So again, if it's the case that partners put forward programmes where they want to go over and above the planning requirements, we'll look at that as part of that bid assessment, work with government on the costs of that, and see how much of that they're willing to fund us to do as they set the overall targets.
So just a reflection on the other two programmes and what we might learn for this one. Obviously there is that planning requirement currently, but we haven't had the accessible homes delivered. So do we know what that gap is? Because if you've described that process, that sounds great and that it will be delivered, but obviously we haven't seen that over the last decade. So I just wondered why that's the case.
In terms of why the planning requirement hasn't delivered the numbers required.
Yeah, and the process you've described, because obviously we would have many more accessible homes if that process was working.
Yeah, I don't really feel qualified to answer the planning question, but one thing we have seen is that we have had targets for specialist housing, for example, in the Affordable Homes Programme, and they haven't worked. They haven't driven an increase in specialist housing. That hasn't been an effective way of driving it up. So it does go back to that kind of planning position and the kind of needs and deliverability which are assessed under the New London Plan process.
And I think this leads to a question about data. So will you require delivery partners to record and publish data on accessibility of new homes by tenure? Because I think that's not what we have currently. We have it not broken down in that way.
Sorry, are you talking here about the AHP or about planning?
Yeah, under the next programme, will you monitor how many accessible homes are built by tenure? Because at the moment we don't get that information. It's just accessible homes, but not by tenure.
I think we'd have to take that one away, Assembly Member Assembly Member Garbett. Apologies. Apologies. I think we'd have to take that one away and look at it. Obviously, we're in the process, of designing the new programme, which is a negotiation with the government, and as part of that, we will have to consider what data and in what format we collect. So I think I'll have to take that one back.
Yeah, and okay. To bring in the voice of disabled Londoners, I think this is so very important for our for a community that being really kind of left behind. I think Assemblymember Boff wanted to come in.
Well, I am a bit outraged by what Mr. Copley has said. It's as though they've got no choice, and it's all the responsibility abnegated to planning. You are actually making these, you are actually driving these homes. Rather than just waiting around for the prospect of homes for disabled people, inclusive homes being built, why don't you push for them? Why don't you push for family-sized homes rather than just waiting for what the market does? And I find myself in the most peculiar position of you being in favour of more market economics than I am.
I appreciate that.
Don't you think you should use your power, the weight that you have, with the affordable housing programme to make lives for disabled people in London better? Or are you just going to wait around to be told?
I absolutely agree we should be doing that, which is why the team have done a huge amount of work over the last couple of years, particularly around specialist and supported housing, because we understand the importance of that.
And they've done the work, hang on, let me
finish my answer. We understand the importance of that. As Tim has said, unfortunately, when we had a target for specialist and supported housing, it wasn't actually effective in driving things. So I do think we have to look at other ways of achieving what we want to achieve. The London plan is up for review, and I think that is one of the key places where this discussion needs to take place in terms of how that particular aspect can be taken forward in terms of the next London plan. But we do, and we are very keen, and we do work with the sector, particularly around specialist and supported housing. A lot of work has gone into that over the last few years to try and address this issue, to try and address the lack of supply, unfortunately, that we've seen in that space over the last few years.
Thank you.